How are you, Avraham?
Everybody should be saying their name.
Yeah, I want to do that. Okay. So this is Talia, Celia, Darla, Yaakov, Avraham, Yochanan, Henry, Daniel, Jonathan. Great. Okay, and I'm Avraham, I think. Great. Bochim Habayim, thank you for coming. So, the something that excites me very much and that I love to speak about, but I don't usually do it. So I was really excited by this, that I could, we could do it. We could do it together. We could think about this. And what it is, if I can articulate it, is what's called in modern terminology the energy-matter continuum. And that's just two terms that are used. There are a lot of other parallel terms. E equals mc squared is a energy equals mass times the speed of light squared, which means that if you speed up the energy within mass, within matter, you will get energy, pure energy. You will transform mass and matter into what it was before it became coalesced into matter. It is not right now traveling at the speed of light, at least not in its external form. You would have to apply that. We'd have to amplify the energy into physical matter and amplify the frequency. And that's what fire does to water by causing steam in a very simple way. That's what scientists are doing when they're heating up matter. Here in this book called The Whole Shebang, just one page, by Timothy Ferris, is a science writer. So he says, why is matter frozen energy? First of all, matter, he says, is frozen energy. So what would we do to matter if we wanted to get it back to a state of energy? We would heat it up. There'll be a spiritual equivalent of this, but in the meantime, we're dealing with physical matter that if we heat it up, he says, to heat up matter is to return it to conditions that pertained earlier in cosmic history. It's what they're doing now in colliders. Neutron colliders, electron colliders. You put a scoop of sand in an oven and heat it to 3,000 degrees Kelvin. That's more than 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And the electrons will be stripped from their atomic shells. The resulting cloud of naked nuclei and free electrons is called plasma, which is the first state of matter, comes before gas, which comes before liquid, which comes before solid. So if we have solid and we heat it up enough, it gets to liquid, it gets to gas, and it gets to plasma. It's all physical terms, but they'll have a spiritual equivalent. So you strip the nuclei and you'll free the electrons. Stars, he says, are plasma. They're very hot. So are the jets emerging from the cores of certain violent galaxies. The whole universe was in a plasma state until very recently, he says, at which point it had cooled sufficiently to enable electrons to stick in their shells, forming complete atoms. Turn up the heat in the oven, and you overwhelm the nuclear binding energy. The protons and neutrons in atomic nuclei cannot stay together. You've wrecked basic atomic structure and resurrected the state of the universe when it was a couple of minutes old by getting it to this high temperature. Comparable energy levels are attained in giant particle colliders, which for that reason are sometimes called time machines, because they take matter back to what it was when it was much hotter. There is a worry that if they do this and they make a little mistake, that it could spread and make every atom in the physical world, it could turn it back into its original state, could have a chain reaction. They have to be very careful. They're playing with fire. Okay, so the temperatures, though, are very, very high. We're talking about where there's no physical matter as we know it. Trillions times trillions times trillions times there's more than man can create. 3,000 Kelvin is nothing compared to the sun, and the sun itself is nothing compared to the temperatures that were in the Big Bang. This is just the scientific side of it. So we're saying that you can remember that matter is frozen energy. Matter is energy that's been coalesced into a solid form, and when you want to return it to its original or closer to its original state, you heat it up. So this idea is very old. It goes back thousands of years. Even though we didn't have the instrumentation, we didn't have the scientific knowledge that we have now, we didn't have the language of science, we had another language. So what's interesting to me, and I hope to you, will be that in consciousness, our ancestors knew these things. They knew and understood that matter is another form of energy, of spirit, of heaven. That heaven is really, in its physical form, it's still heaven, but it's physicalized. And you could then refine it, and it's called zikuch hachomer. You can refine physical matter. And that's what human beings are about. It's a Gemara in Tuvot, page Daf Hey Amud Aleph. I think it's going to be Tarfon. It says, Gedulim Maaseh Tzadikim Mi Maaseh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Greater are the deeds of the tzaddikim than those of the Holy One, blessed be He. And he brings a verse to prove it. This is interesting. God does some pretty good stuff here. And what are we doing? We're hardly doing anything. Well, what did God do? God transformed energy into matter. But what we do is we transform matter into energy, into spirit. For example,
I'm sorry.
well, when you take the skin of an animal and you make it into parchment and you write a Sefer Torah, you've done an amazing thing, because Torah is called Oraita. Even the word Torah, although it starts with a taf, it means teaching of light. Oraita is the Aramaic for Torah. It's light. And you've taken skin of an animal, which is or, and you've made it into or. You've taken or with an ayin. The title of this at the top of every page is or becomes or becomes or. All right, you see at the top of the page. So I wanted to share with you some of the inside sources of this idea. First of all, the idea on the first page that you open when you open up the booklet, and you see, especially for our purposes, the one at the far left, which looks like a triangle, which is the 6 days of creation. So this for me is a picture with 1,000 words, and I'd like to share some of those words with you of how Hashem, according to our Midrashim, brought the world from a very high energy state down through many stages to the way it is now. And even by the 6th day of creation, the world was still not physical. So what we just learned in Bereshit can be learned in many different ways on many different levels. The 6 days of creation seem to be speaking about a physical world. And perhaps it is on one level, but really what Moshe was about and the transmission that he was given was less interested in physical reality as it is now, and more interested in where physical reality comes from. That we belong to a universe that's multi-leveled. Not that there are many universes that are physical like ours. This is a big universe. There are many galaxies, and this is the physical universe. What the sages are saying, and what the Torah is saying, what the prophets are saying, is that we are a part of a larger system that goes very high, and that we came from there. Our neshamot, our souls came from there. We came down through many stages in order to come through into a physical world where our souls could come and incarnate into bodies. And there's a reason for it that no other religion gives. No other spiritual teaching on the planet has the hekif, has the comprehensiveness of the Torah teachings on this subject. So let's go through this first 6 days of creation very, very, really just very simply. As that the half sun at the top that you see in the diagram is represented in the 4th verse in Bereshit, which says, "Vayar Elohim et ha'or ki tov vayavdel Elohim ben ha'or uben ha'choshech vayikra la'or yom v'la'choshech kara laila." And Hashem saw the light that it was good, and he separated. He made a separation. Vayavdel, the Midrash, there's a Midrash, I didn't bring it here, there's a Midrash that says he made Havdalah, which is so sweet, because if you make Havdalah, what was before Havdalah? Shabbat. So Hashem made Havdalah, and it says, Vayar et ha'or ki tov, he saw the light, that it was good. And the Midrash learns, the Midrash Tanchuma learns a halacha from here. You must see the Havdalah candle direct without anything intervening between you and it. It has to be, you see it and it's good. And then you put your fingernails this way. Everybody does all kinds of things, but the way the Ari says it is to fold your thumb inside here and to look at your fingernails and look at the light of the Havdalah candle shining off of your fingernails. The reason being, one reason being that you want to take some of the light of Shabbat with you into the week. And you can't take it all, but you want to take something of it. You want the flow, the overflow of Shabbat to come into your life during Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so that on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you can start to prepare for the next Shabbat. In that sense, Shabbat is the culmination of the week, but it's also the first 3 days after Shabbat are the spillover of Shabbat into the week, and then the next 3 days are the preparation for coming up into the next level. It really is a spiral. Shabbat lifts up our lives. It elevates our existence. And then it flows down into mundane reality, into our work, into what we do when we are doing what we want to do and what we need to do, but we are energized by a deeper level called Shabbat, that we understand that what's going on here is not our full power. It's the power that we're being given the ability to use. But it's a gift, and how we use it and the responsibility for using it. And it's really inner control as opposed to control over things. Whatever the case, the spillover of Shabbat is very beautiful. And the idea of Havdalah is that I can't take the whole light of Shabbat with me, but I want to take at least some of it. The Sefer Bahir says that Hashem left aside 6/7 of the light of Shabbat that preceded creation, and he made the world with 1/7 of that light. On the condition that if everybody would use that light properly, if we would be able to do what's needed to be done with that light, that he would then mashlim, he would then complete on the 7th day, and perhaps on the 7th millennium, right, he would complete the other 6/7, and he would give us what he wanted to give from the very beginning, which is the whole light of Shabbat. This is very beautiful, that he had this Shabbos light, and he said, oh, this is so good, I want to give it to my children, but I have to make them first. In order to make children, I have to make a world. In order to make a world, I have to hide my light, because my light is so strong, the world can't exist. You can just have God speaking to him like so, speaking to himself in such a manner, you can hear him saying these things. If you just think for a second, what would be God's thought process in order to bring about a world where he could give us something so precious that he wanted to give us? It's all made up, but it's based on ideas that we've been told about and that have been taken seriously. So you can do your creative dialogue between yourself and God, between Hashem and himself. But the idea, the basic idea, is that he wanted to do something, and it's all in one word, v'yavdel. That one word is a key to this, that he, as Rashi says on that verse, based on the Gemara and Chagigah, based on the Zohar, in a number of places, they all say the same thing. That he had to hold back his light and hide his light in order to create the universe. So the universe is light, but it's light which is going to go through millions of stages of coalescence into physical matter. And that at the core of it, it's always going to be the same light. It's more and more hidden. So since Hashem is here, there, and everywhere, just as he was before the creation, we say it every morning in the davening, Atahu, Kodem Shebarata Ha'olam, V'atahu, Le'achar Shebarata Ha'olam. You are he from before you created the world, meaning you are he, meaning you are unchanging. You are the same. You didn't go through this didn't make a change in you. And you are he, that is to say, you have never changed, even after you made the world. And we have this in a number of sources, and I want to share these with you. Because why? Because they make a difference in how we live our lives when we can bring them down and make them into real kinyani. We can really acquire these ideas. They've been given to us. We're keeping it simple. I mean, it's a deep subject, but it's simple to talk about light. It simplifies it, and it's okay. I want it to be almost like familiar to you, what we're saying. In fact, I want everybody to say to me, we already know this, Avraham, like, what do you have to spend so much time on it for? Yes.
It is written, ששת ימים עשה השם את השמיים והארץ. ששת ימים הוראות או האנרגי.
Well, the Zohar says in the Ari, everybody says that these are the Sheshet Yamim is the creation of the Sfirot. But
ששת ימים לא 10 ימים.
because for this world, certain lights were held back, of the higher lights of the Sfirot were held back in order to create a lower dimensionality. I can't answer that too technically now, but the Sfirot are definitely being spoken about. And it's also that it's, if you'll notice that the way the verse is written, Sheshet Yamim, it doesn't say B'Sheshet Yamim. It says Sheshet Yamim, 6 days were created, and then it's time. Time was created. Time was, so space-time is a creation. Hashem is the creator of space-time. There's a lot to talk about.
Sutton,
Yes.
if every day was one of the spheros, so does that correspond then to what was created that day? Is there some
No,
kind
it's
of
not.
energy?
Every day is not one of the Sfirot. That's a whole different subject, so
Okay.
I want to be careful here. There is a lot of touch. There would be a lot to talk about with Sfirot, but it's important that I give you over what's going on in the 6 days of the week, first of all, in simple Midrashic language. And then we'll build. We have to be on the same page in order to travel together, to be on the same energy frequency, because otherwise it won't work. So with your permission, I'm not going to hold it up the same every moment. You'll have it here. This is the diagram we're dealing with. The 6 days of creation. It could be done otherwise. It was done a long time ago by somebody who actually was able to put my idea into these 3 very important diagrams, and time, space, and consciousness. And I would give these lectures wherever I would go on the fall and the rise of time, space, and consciousness. Not the rise and the fall of civilizations, but the fall, the collapse of time, space, and consciousness, and that we're holding right now just about to be the upswing that we all have been waiting for, of the upswing, of the arising, of the elevation of time, of space, and of consciousness back to what it was when it was given. But now we have been participating in bringing it back, and that's the whole thing, the gift that Hashem wanted to give us, to be part, to be active participants. Okay, so here we go. The top is the first day. Hashem made Havdalah. He funneled out, he sieved out, what all the words for,
Sifted?
Sifted, filtered out,
Sifted
out most of the light, and made the world with only 1/6, 1/7. The next thing down there is some wavy lines which represent the second day of creation, which are the separation of the lower waters from the upper waters. So, what is the idea of the separation of the lower waters from the upper waters? And I'm not going into the written text right now because I want to go into the fourth and fifth. I want to actually go into the 5th day with you today. For some reason, that really got me. So we're not going in order, but in terms of the real inside work that I want to do today. But in terms of the overview, we're in day number 2. There's a separation of the lower waters from the upper waters in the verses themselves in the Torah and Bereshit. The Midrashim say that the lower waters cried, and tears are salty. And the waters of the earth are salty. The waters of the oceans are salty. This is a kind of a very interesting play here. But the waters cried and said, why do we have to go down? We want to be close to you also. Don't send us down. So Hashem said, I really see you're sincere. All this is midrashic, children's level, but it contains something, when we get to it, deeper. It says, I really see you're sincere, and I'm going to have the children of Israel in chapter 2 of Sefer Vayikra, I think, or even could be even the 13th verse in chapter 1 of Vayikra, that every korban that they bring in the Beit HaMikdash has to have salt with it. It's called Brit Milah, the covenant of salt. And Rashi says there that that's a fulfillment of a promise that God made to the lower waters, that they had to go down. He didn't want to change the decree. The lower waters have to go down and become the lower waters, whatever that means, whatever we're talking about. And I'll give you some analogies to it. But they have to go down, but he's going to tell them that they are going to be elevated later on at some future time. And we're going to see here that everything that did go down is a promise that on the way back up, everything's going to get elevated again. Basically, the way I used to say it is that the Midrash says that when Hashem said, Naaseh Adam, let's make man, he was saying to every element in creation, I want each one of you to give something to man, because man is going to be the only composite creature, and you each are going to give something to him. So that when man does something, if he elevates himself, he elevates the entire universe. If he degenerates himself, then he degenerates the entire universe. He's going to be the one that we're all going to give something. And I myself, Hashem says, I will also give something of myself. I will give man his soul. But on a physical level, we actually contain the history of not only the entire, all the generations before us, we contain the history not only of the world, we contain the history of the universe, the cosmos, in us. So in different ways, we are, we're made in a wondrous way. We got a little bit off there. I'm going to come back to the second day. The analogy here of what does it mean, the lower waters and the upper waters? It's similar to the difference between human beings and angels. Human beings had to come down, angels stayed up. We're promised, there's a lot of sources about this, that when it all comes full circle, human beings who did come down, who went down into the dichotomies of life, into the difficulty, who had free will, who had to utilize free will, who had to make mistakes and learn from them, will be higher than the angels. The angels are pretty high. They're very awesome beings. We are nothing. We're minuscule compared to the higher angels. And yet we're being told that as a result of coming down here, we will become higher than the angels. So that's in a sense an analogy to the actual promise to the water, the lower waters, that they too will be elevated. There's a similar thing with Yaakov, that Yaakov is told to go down to Mitzrayim. It says in the Haggadah, he's anus al pi adibur. He was forced by Hashem's decree to go down to Egypt. And that's the only way that he and his children and Am Yisrael could get Eretz Yisrael, was by first going down to Egypt. As opposed to Esav, who got his kingdom in this world. Esav is his twin brother. Esav does not get Eretz Yisrael because he did not go down to Egypt, right? To the depths of the depths. So there's something about going down into the difficulties of life and being faced with challenges that gives you then the ability to come back and to achieve a higher level of integration and wholeness. The third day is the trees, the fruits, where the Torah says that Hashem commands the trees to give forth etz pri, ose pri. You all familiar with this? Tell me if you are, and you can tell me what I'm about to say. What is etz pri, ose pri? It's a fruit tree, an edible fruit tree that also produces fruits. But what came out in the end was not the command that Hashem did. It was etz ose pri. It's very, very blaring there. It's glaring that there's a word missing. It's not etz pri, ose pri. It's etz ose pri. It's a tree that puts forth. So the Midrash says that the trees said to God, if we're edible, then men will come and eat us, and we will not be able to produce. We're covering ourselves with thick shells to protect ourselves.
That's the idea that you could eat the bark like the whole tree was edible, right?
And they say that there's one that can be eaten to this day, something about etrogim. I've been near etrog trees, but I don't know anything about. I mean, you can certainly have wonderful etrog jam, and it's made from the skin. So there's something to that. But about the bark of the tree, I have no idea. I don't see any possibility. So trees are covered with bark, they're not edible. Okay. The analogy to this is the Torah. The Torah has a fruit level and an outer rind. In order to protect the fruit, the outer rind is bitter. He who will come and who is not worthy will eat the outer rind and say, I don't want anything to do with this stuff. This is like, this is not normal. And they will therefore not be able to get to the fruit. It'll be a self-built-in protective barrier for those who want to get power, but not in a moral way. And therefore, the outer level of the Torah is a protective fence, an electrified fence, whatever you want to do, to say, can't come in. You'll be pushed away. So something went wrong on every day of creation. It was programmed to go wrong. In order to bring more light out, the fruit now is withheld. And this metaphor is different than the waters going down. It's different than the light on the first day being pulled out and only a little bit light going down. The second day, the waters going down and the light and the waters being held up above. The analogy is the upper waters are corresponding to the 6/7 of light that were held back on the first day, right? So you just have to have this midrashic. They're not written in any one place. They're all over the place. Nobody's telling you how to put it all together. This is part of the way Torah is given over to protect it, which is that it's broken into billions of pieces. That's why, by the way, Moshe Rabbeinu, according to one version, cast down the tablets and they broke. And those broken pieces of the tablets of the covenant were placed into the ark, along with the whole tablets of the second covenant, the second tablet, because the broken pieces really are what we have now even though the second tablets are whole, but what we have is the broken Torah. And that's why the Gemara also is written as it's written, which is a broken system of wisdom. You don't have any system like this in the entire planet, that if you want to learn something, it usually takes 5-6 months, and you can get a certificate, and you can become a teacher of something 6 months, 9 months, 2 years, a 4-year course, 8 years for doctors, whatever. But the Torah is like 75 years and you still don't get it. Like, why is it so hard? Because it's broken. It says to be aniyah b'makom echad ve'ashir b'makom acher. It's poor in one place, but it's rich in another. Well, how do you know where the rich one is if you only have some poor knowledge? If you don't have a computer or whatever to give you access to the whole system, you don't know where to look. And therefore, you're constantly finding that you don't know enough of what you want to know about. And it's built like that until you have the inner connection to it, and it starts to feed into you. And you start to know what you need to know, even if you've never seen it. It's because the Torah is a living system. But again, it's a protective thing in order that those who would come to try and misuse the Torah are not allowed to do so. So it's all connected with this metaphor of fruits surrounded by rind, skin.
Can I ask something? It just seems the fruit analogy is a little bit different than the others, because it's not so much a splitting, it's like something coming from something. Like,
Yeah.
more unified.
Yeah, I had to work with this one. It's the fruit being covered by the skin. That's all I can say. And the skin, in a sense, is protecting the fruit.
And the bark and all that tree makes the water go to the fruit to make fruit. You can have that in common.
It's a lot to do, a lot to say, a lot to learn. The fourth one is really interesting. It's like fantastic. It's here in this booklet, but I'm not going to learn it with you inside yet. Here, if you see, it's page 1, which is the page right after the diagrams. This is, huh?
But it was a good thing that Moshe brought the tablet, because otherwise the whole Torah from Shammai would have gone away. At least we have the chance, no? Of this Torah.
No, I can't disagree with you. It's a serious thing that he did, and he was given he was told afterwards, Yashar kochacha sheshabarta. You did the right thing. And there's depths and depths and depths behind Moshe's breaking of the tablets.
Yeah. So the protective shell, it seems to me though that lately people don't have a lot of koyach to kind of get through that shell anymore.
Yes, so we're breaking through. We're showing here that even though the light is being siphoned out on every successive day, there's still so much light. But it's only there when you sharpen your perceptive faculties. And it's an inner experience. And then it grows and grows and grows until sometimes it even pops out into physical reality. But mostly it's an inner, internal thing that we call emunah. Simple words, but with a lot of big bank account behind a word like emunah. The more you learn this stuff at this level, we're going to learn the Gra, you're going to learn the Ramchal, you're going to learn the Baal Shem Tov, you're going to learn the Ari, you're going to learn the Leshen, and the Ben Ish Chai, and the Bnei Yisachar, and all that with the eyes that come through this deep learning. So then the ore level starts to get stronger and stronger. And that's what's being called for now, because we're at the time when Hashem wants to give us the 6 sevens. But we have to begin to know it, to recognize it, right? To be mature messianists. Not crazy, not weird. Each one of us has to take responsibility. We've gone through 22, 23 days of powerful reorganization of our entire energy system, right? Coming out now into the world. The first time we're having this class, right? This is like a new baby being born. We're talking about trying to manifest something, to make it real in our lives. And there's a lot of work involved in that. And sometimes when you're doing the work and you're breaking the rocks and it's so hard day after day until the water starts to come out and you wash your face and you wash yourself and you drink the water and you drink the water. You thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was so hard. It hurt so much what I had to go through. He wants to hear that from us, right? I had a day like that today. So that wasn't an act. So day 4. Although I don't want to do it inside, I just wanted to show you that there's this incredible set of verses here. You read the top of page 1. Vayas Elohim et shnei me'orot gedolim. And Hashem, Elohim made the 2 large luminaries. Shnei ha'me'orot hegedolim. What does gedolim mean? Large. Et ha'me'or ha'gadol memshelet hayom. The large luminary to rule the day. Ve'et ha'me'or ha'katon lememshelet halayla. Does everybody have this inside? And the small luminary to rule the night. Ve'et ha'kochavim. Along with the stars. What is wrong with this verse? How could you say that they're both big and then say that one is big and one is small? Well, if you look at a total solar eclipse as seen from Turkey on March 29th, 2006, 11:55 a.m., courtesy of NASA TV, it's a terrible Xerox, like unbelievable. Here's the real one. It's crazy. I have to go through. This is a little bit better. That is the moon from the point of view of the earth in between us and the sun. That's not normal. That's crazy. The moon is much smaller than the sun. How can it cover the disk of the sun and just the aurora of the sun is coming out, spilling out over the sides? But really the actual orb of the sun and the orb of the moon are both the same size from the point of view of planet Earth. I heard once, I have it in here, it's a 400, how do I say it? It's in here somewhere. don't know where I have it. 400 time, 400 size distance ratio. I almost can't find it. That it is 400 times more distant away from us than the moon, and it's 400 times larger. Whatever, I can't even get it. But it's mathematically something very interesting that you have this, right? So it's a fact that if the verse would make total sense to say that they're both big, and yet one is bigger and the other is smaller, because we know that there's a size distance ratio. I think that's amazing. Do you ever think about it? It's crazy. Top of page 2, one who believes in an infinite, wise, and loving creator will certainly see evidence of his handiwork in such incredible precision. For the one who made the sun, earth, and moon and placed them in their orbits is, among other things, an incredible mathematician. The distance size ratios are so perfect that they actually seem the same size from our point of view. All this is included in the simple reading of the above verses. The sages of the Talmud and the Midrash did not attempt to resolve the seeming contradiction in the verses in this way. On the contrary, they chose to magnify the contradiction and utilize it to tell a very deep children's story. And here I give the source, two sources, one in Gemara in Chulin and one in Gemara in Shavuot, where they say that the moon said to Hashem, I don't see how two kings can share a crown. I want my own crown. I don't want to share with the sun. And God says, oh, really? Well, then just go and make yourself small. Lechi ma'ati tatzmech. Which at first sight, and is really mostly told by most people as a punishment. Who are you to be so chutzpahdik that you think that you want your own crown and you don't want to share with the sun? Well, then go make yourself small. But then she pouted. And she was sad. He said, okay, I'll give you the stars. And she was still sad. You can see it inside. He replied to her, if that's the case, go and diminish yourself. Can you find that on the page here on page 2? In the middle of this large paragraph that's translated from the Gemara. The beginning of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fifth line of the English of the paragraph of the Gemara that starts Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi, but 5 lines below it. If that is the case in brackets, then go and diminish yourself. She said to him, just because I said something proper before you, should I diminish myself? He said to her, go and rule by day and by night, because we can see the moon at night, in the day. She said to him, what's the advantage of this? What's the value of a candle in the presence of the noonday sun? He said to her, go diminish yourself so that Israel may count the days and years through you. So he is interacting with her. It's a him and a her here. It's like, it's all just a children's story. There's no conversation that ever existed like this. It's a made-up conversation. I want you to know that. You don't have to, but you have what you get from the story when you get into it and you learn it and you then get the idea that's in it and that it's embodied in it. You say, wow, I'm really glad they told it like this. It's fun. But it's definitely not just a story. They're not telling you have to literally believe it. But they're telling you, look inside here and see what we're saying to you. So, okay, so he says, I want Israel to use you to count the days and the years. And that's what we do. We use a solar lunar calendar. And she said, but the sun is also necessary for counting the times and the seasons, as it is written, and they will be for signs and appointed seasons, appointed times. Well, he keeps saying, I hear you, so therefore go And in the merit of this, certain specific righteous individuals will be called small in your name. Yaakov the small, Shmuel the small, David the small. It's really good to be small. It's cool. It's not a punishment. In the end, we're going to say and if you really want to be big, I'm going to allow you the ability to grow into your greatness. And that is more of a gift than if I give you greatness. And that's what you intuitively understood. And you, the moon, are really symbolic of what's called the Shekhinah. And you, the moon, are really symbolic of what's called the soul. The soul knows that it can't stay up in heaven. And all these other stories that come in with this and come in and make it so beautiful. The idea of lechi ma'ati et atzmech, go make yourself small so that you will be able to attain your own greatness. It is not a punishment. Yaakov the small, Shmuel the small, David the small, seeing that she was still upset, the Holy One finally said, bring an atonement for me for having diminished the moon. What? This is what Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish meant when he said, what distinguishes the Rosh Chodesh Seir, the little goat that is offered every new moon, from the goat offerings on all the holidays? We just offered some goats on Sukkot. It's the only one in which the term lechatat lashem, as a sin offering for God, is used, whereas all the others are written seir lechatat, a goat for a sin offering. This teaches us that all the other holidays, and I'll give examples later on, you can see them yourself, all the other holidays, not one time is it mentioned lashem, a sin offering for God. And even the word chatat lashem doesn't really mean a sin offering for God. It means a sin offering to God. But why would the rabbis go to this whole thing and say that God sinned, and therefore he's asking us to bring an atonement offering because he sinned? Because why? Because according to the context that we're trying to create here, he says, I'm really sorry that I have to diminish my light and make the moon without light, because it's the equivalent of my taking the 6/7 out on the first day, and of taking the upper waters out on the second day, and of enclosing the fruits on the third day. And now I'm taking the sun, and I'm separating the sun from the moon in order to diminish my light so that you can be who you have to be. And that's a sin on my part, but I'm doing it for your good. So I want you to bring a sin offering for me.
So beautiful, because if God's perfect, God shouldn't have to be able to sin. But if we say that God could do something he considers a sin and then kind of repent for it, it's tremendous.
Are these equal sin?
No, it's only a story. You have to understand what I'm trying to do here. How can I do it better? How can I make this good? What's everybody getting from this so far? What I keep saying when I'm saying children's story, fairy tales, right?
The allegories for us to take to our life. It's allegorical. You put it into your own life from there. That's very similar to what you've taught me before, that life is about this process of earning your existence and making yourself clean to be able to receive it back.
It's the same idea when you send away your children to go to school. You don't want them to go to school. You'd rather stay and play all day long. But for them to grow up, you have to send them away. So Hashem did the same Havdil with us and sent us away into this world.
If we know this now, by knowing this, is this a paradigm shift for us? Do we see something now that we didn't see before? We would have been we could be complaining all day because the bus didn't stop for us. We can be complaining that we forgot something in the store, and when we went back, it wasn't there, and everything was going wrong, and why did this happen to me, and why is the traffic such that I was trying to get somewhere and I couldn't get there because there was so much traffic, and people were honking, what's this place? Right? We could go there, right? So what does this teach me about how to deal with that?
It's all from the Almighty, and then it's all to teach us something. If there's a whole other reality going on, beyond what we see, that God's pulling all the buttons and pressing all the things, and whatever's happening is some message to us that we have to gain from that, and it's pushing a total state of acceptance instead of fighting all of it. Ideally.
Let your ears hear what your mouth has just said. That's the problem with these Torah teachers. Talia.
Get your ups and downs, you know?
Yes, I have. I know. I'm with you. I'm with you. But we have to be able to have dot, consciousness. And that's what light is. That's what spiritual light is consciousness. And what we're talking about here is light. We'll see as we refine it and as we get it better, what's going on here is consciousness.
But there's two things. There's consciousness of knowing that God's doing it, and then there's the acceptance of it. And those are two different things.
Okay.
So, to be in that state of acceptance is like, it's funny because if you don't want to be passive, it's not passivity.
No.
It's an active thing. Buddhism would say it's a passive, just like surrender. So it's just that it's an interesting question.
Ours is a surrender to bring down into this world.
But it's also acceptance of that situation you're in. Like you fight, when you don't fight it anymore, you can live with it. But there's always the line you're walking of, are you supposed to be fighting against it or not? Some things aren't so clear.
For me, it feels more like more than a sense of acceptance. It's something that we can integrate and a challenge within ourselves to not be passive. So for me, there's that acceptance part of it, but there's also that our own doing of like taking that and elevating through those challenges.
While you're in the challenge, it's not easy.
Sure.
When you've succeeded and you've come through a challenge and you've gotten the fruit, you've gotten the reward, you've gotten something, you've been able to do something. And if you'll admit it to yourself, you'll say, this is so beautiful. And you look back and say, oh, now I understand. It's almost impossible to overcome the tension while the challenge is on. If you're going to feel thankful for your life, it's a real thing. And at the same time that you're struggling, that you're hurting because you're putting so much into it, that's there. Don't suppress it. Don't repress it. Don't make like it's not there. It's you trying to do the best you can, but you're hurting and it doesn't feel good. And you can still be thankful, but this is a little bit stronger, right? But as you now work with these, if you give space to each one of these, this is the energy for you to move forward. Because I got a message on Simchat Torah. It threw me down. And it was Simchat Torah, I had a great Simchat Torah. But the message was, you cannot write anymore and you will not teach anymore. And I'm a very sensitive guy. That was over. There's no more. All the writing, the years, the months, the everything I put my whole life into writing my books, and the pleasure and the incredible. I mean, it's very personal, and the incredible what I get from sharing things. But the day after Simchat Torah, I got a new energy to start again, and I understood retroactively that I had to completely accept. But these are subtle things. I don't know if I did the right thing. I don't know what's going on. I'm just trying to work with what I'm being given here. I ain't no enlightened master. I'm a hardworking, sensitive feeling. I get down, I pick myself up, I do it again. Because I know that I know what it feels like to feel that energy flowing through me and Hashem giving me my life. Anyway, I'm sorry. But while it's going on, there's no way to overcome the tension completely. But keep both of them alive. Be thankful that you know you're alive, that you have so much. Don't let that become completely on the side here. Right? Make it real. Breathe. Do something that allows you to know how incredibly blessed you are. Don't let this other stuff come in and overwhelm you completely. Take a walk. Do something that's good for you. I'm talking to all of you. I'm not talking, I'm doing my best to really make it real. Okay.
I remember once you were talking to us about tefillah and kavanah. He said sometimes the harder it is, it means that you're getting closer to really being able to pray, and the Sidra Achra is out to get you. And that's what I think happens. I think, like, I don't want him giving God's word over to all these plain old people here, and I think you got a message from the other side.
I don't believe in the other side anymore.
Oh, shucks, man. Now I start worrying about davening again. I'm not feeling good when I can't.
That's old Bubba tales. Sitra Achra it depends on your perspective. So I'm at the perspective right now that it's all God, and I have to deal with him. Okay, anyway.
But one last thing, there's just one last thing. There's the things you
I think I'm going down to the water. It's
there are
deeper than I
things
can
you
handle.
have control of yourself, and there are things that happen that are out of your control.
Things that I'm controlling.
There are people. People
There
do
are
things in your life. People do stuff. Things happen, and you.
I can maintain a certain degree of self-control.
No, it's
And
that
then
acceptance. No, there's things that you can't make a difference. Like people are going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to make the decision they make, and you can't do anything about it.
It's all how you act with it.
What? So that's what I'm talking about in terms of acceptance. There's this line that you walk. There's the stuff you can only control how you deal with it, right? That's
Even that is very difficult.
But sometimes people are doing the wrong thing also.
Well, if you
Sometimes people
know
are doing
that,
the wrong thing.
I don't know if wrong comes in here. If I'm trying to do what I need to do in order to maintain my integrity and to act and to be in a way that's important to me, then that's the best I can do, and that's going to have more an effect on everybody else than anything else.
Okay.
So,
I got it.
okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I've been waiting.
When you,
I've known Talia a few years,
not that
and
long.
not that long. Sorry,
No,
a
not
few
that
years.
long.
Yeah, it's a few years, and it's the first time you've been in this room. It's the first time you've been in this room. This is a magic room. This is a holy of holies
Yeah,
room.
I can feel it.
So you can feel who comes here and what they're all bringing, and that's incredible. So thank you so much for coming. It's been a long time.
Thank you for letting me know and giving me such good instructions to get here. When you asked, when I'm backtracking, and you talked about it's like a children's story, and you kept stressing children's story, and I'm not my learning. I used to say, "What's the story?" You know, I didn't know what to do with it, but I think I finally got something when you kept, stressing it. So I said, "So what are children?" Tmimim. This is tmimut. This is the essence of the shlemut. This is what I got. I don't know if it works.
You're right. That's right.
So
I was fortunate to be able to share by Reb Talbert, Shlita, who's a big gadol.
Rabbi Israel Tauber?
Yeah, on Shabbos. And he talked about Am Yisrael as Klal Yisrael as the Kala. If we're ready to accept that role, then Hashem takes us into the Bamidbar,
Into the desert.
and he marries us individually. But if we bring in with it all of our problems, then you're bringing two people into chuppah. You're not allowed to bring two people into chuppah. It's only one.
What do you mean not bringing the problems? Bringing Egypt with you?
Yeah, all the stuff.
All the stuff.
Everything. And then Hashem can't marry you.
So be pure, innocent.
Innocent.
Leave behind all the stuff that's
Right.
how you have to
So
develop that.
He said, so what did he say at the end? What was he? Kitzer, what he said. He says, when he watched his father, he asked his father, what's this? And he's a big chacham, and they made it to the show. And he asked his father, what is it that is the essence, the pure essence of, what's the most important mitzvah? Like, what's the most important mitzvah? And he said to him, Chaim Simcha, be happy with your life. That's the biggest mitzvah of all the mitzvah. He said, what do you mean? No Torah, no nothing, all this learning, no. All of, and we're talking the Beit Chachamim of pre-Shoah. He said, it's all, and he said, look at a child. What does a child have? Does he have Torah mitzvah? No, he doesn't have anything. He's tamimim. What makes him so special? He says that he is a Jew. And look at how he is. That's it. Simple. That's all it is. Simple and happiness with what it is. That he's a child. And that it was so like simple way of looking at it. And
So we saw on day 2, we saw the water cry. On day 3, we saw the trees complain that somebody's going to eat us. We have to protect ourselves. And on day 4, the moon pouted and wasn't very happy about. Right. So it's a child's story that teaches us how does it. I don't know what it teaches us right now, but it's really a child's story. There's like these books with these different emotions for children, and it's really helping a lot of kids to identify their own emotions and to be able to know how they are apart from the emotion. There's the sad boy. Oh yeah, I know the sad boy. And then emotions teach emotional maturity, emotional growth. So here we see that going down is a hard thing for all of us. And that Hashem's plan is to uplift us through this process. I'm sorry if I took it away from you prematurely, but let's see where we're holding. So this is very rich stuff, and I would like to share it with you. I'd like to do this booklet with you over the next 2 or 3 weeks, because if you see page 4, it goes to day 5. Page day 4 and day 5, that's what's in here. And what I really put my energy in today was day 5 at the top of page 4. And it gets the rest of the booklet from page 4 to page 12 is all about this. And plus there's some really heavy, amazing Hebrew sources that are there that are not translated. Most of it until a certain point is all translated. You could look at it, try and look at it, make some marks in the book. Take the time. But when you come in here, what's going to happen is that most of what we're going to say is going to be off the page, because we're going to start working with the ideas and seeing how alive they can become.
From the sources?
Huh?
From the
sources. So what's going on the 5th day, in the few minutes that we have left, the 5th day and the 6th day it's really getting very more complex in a sense. The 5th day is let the waters teem with swarms of living creatures. Elohim created Hataninim Hagedulim, the great sea creatures, along with every particular species of living being that crawls, with which the waters teem, and every particular species of winged flying creature. Elohim saw that it was good. Elohim blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the flying creatures multiply in the land. It was evening, it was morning, day 5. I'm saying Hashem's name here because it's in the verses themselves, even though we're saying the verses in English, but the name of Hashem can be said in this case when you're saying a whole verse. So who are these Taninim Gedolim? Just like we had with the moon, we had Gedolim, and then we had Gadol V'Katon, great and small. Here, there's a difference of one letter. In the fruits, we had a difference of one word. Instead of Etz Pri Ose Pri, we got only Etz Ose Pri. We had a tree that produces fruits, produces edible fruits, but the tree itself is not edible. Here we have one letter, which indicates that something happened with these 2 sea creatures, these Taninim. Now in modern Hebrew, a Tanin is an alligator, and that's not what we're talking about. You'll see here the word Leviathan, Leviathan, and the modern understanding of Leviathan is whale. We're not talking about whales either. We're still above, before, prior to the physical world as we know it.
So what is this?
An energy level, a level of consciousness that we will go back to when we start going full circle, and we will reattain the level that we pass through all the levels unconscious, I would say. That's one I was going to say before. We have, what does it mean that we were given, that every creature in the universe gave a part of itself to us? It means that, and another way of saying the same thing is that we were the molecules, we were the apples, we were the sheep, we've been everything. It's a little bit far out. There's a story in T.H. White called The Sword and the Stone about King Arthur. Anybody read that?
Sure.
So Arthur is training, Merlin is training Arthur to become king. And he says to him one night, you see those ants there? We're going down there tonight. We're going to become ants. I'm going to show you what you need to, in order to be a king, you need to learn from the ants. The birds one night, the fish another night. So it's interesting. Just, it's not the same thing, but it's, there's things that we have in us from all of creation. Why? Why are we so unconscious? We are the crown of creation, and yet we are not anywhere near who we are potentially capable of being. In a sense, they say that Olam HaAsiyah is the world of completion, the world of action, which is the world of completion, which is the world of actualization. And it's the actualization of all of God's plan. This is his actualization. This is what he wants. This is only a halfway house towards what he ultimately wants. This is not the completion. Don't worry. Don't think that this is all there is. Science can only work within certain parameters. They can only extrapolate from the present and say, well, if it's like this now, it must have been like this then. And if it's like this now, it must be like this then, in the future. We're not limited to that model. We come from higher worlds. The world was not always like it is now, and the world will not always be like it is now. We're moving into the Messianic age, into a whole never level of energy. So what I'm trying to do, and it's not easy, I can't do justice to it completely, but to give you the bigger picture, so that it'll actually have a profound effect on what you're going to do when you're standing in the Amidah, when you're saying the Shema, when you're saying the Pesukei de Zimra. It's going to come down to that. But I had to go out to the outer reaches of the universe, so to speak, to before time and space began, in order to get the picture that I need, in order to bring it down into my life and your life. So that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm hoping to do. That's what I'm excited to do with you. And I hope that we can be doing this together. So these Taninim, there's one letter in the word Taninim. It's spelled in the Torah. If you see the first line on page 4 of the Hebrew, the fifth word from the end of the line. Right, you move from the right, you go to the left. The fifth word from the left is Hataninim. You see how it's spelled? Mm-hmm. Hey, Taf, Nun, Yud, Nun, Mem.
Right. Oh, right.
Now it could be that if what happens when you have a question in the Torah where you're not sure if there's a mistake here that prevents us from reading the Torah on Shabbat, and we have to put the Torah away, or can we continue reading? And the people who are saying the brachot on their aliyot, it's legitimate and it's acceptable. And we might have to fix it a little bit after Shabbat, but it's usable, right? It's an in-between thing. We bring up a child, and we cover over everything around it, and we say, what does this word say? What's that letter there? You hear? It's interesting. We base ourselves on a child. Mm-hmm. Okay. So if a child would be put up and say the word Hataninim, and he'd read it, he'd say Hataninam. That's all we want. Thank you very much. It should have a yud in it. It's pronounced with a yud in it, but it's written without a yud in it. And because of that, the rabbis did this whole story. You're going to see 17 pages of story on this one yud, which is what? That there were two, a male and a female, and Hashem castrated the male and pickled the female. Pickled herring. So now, why would he do that? Because the sun, we didn't mention very much at first, but the moon was made smaller. But the sun, what happened to the sun? The light of the sun was put into a physical orb. Someday we have two places in the Gemara, one in the Vodazora Daf Beit and one in the Darim Daf Chet. Reish Amar Reish Lakish Ein Gehinam Latid Lavo El HaKadosh Baruch Hu Motzi Chama Min Atika. There'll be no hell or anything, a place of punishment in the future. Rather, Hashem will just take the sun out of its sheath, out of its orb, and it'll be a healing for the righteous, and it'll be painful cleansing, a burning cleansing for the wicked. It's the same light. It's not go over there and you go here and you go there. The same light, depending on what I did, how I lived my life, how that light impacts on me, either it'll completely burn me up or it'll completely heal me. It's a very advanced concept, right? So the idea here, boy, I get tired doing this. The idea here is that the light, come on, Avraham. The light is still too strong. It has to be held back. Boy, I lost it.
You're talking about pickled herring.
Yeah. So you have to hold back the light of the sun as well as making the moon small. You have to hold back the light of the sun, which is equivalent in the fifth day of this thing called castration. You're preventing the male energy from shining into the female. You're separating the male and the female and preventing the male from shining into the male. You're covering it with, you're encasing the male light of the sun, and you're putting the female down there at a distance. So also here, you're preventing the male from connecting to the female. In order, why? In order to create a lower dimensionality by pulling back the male light and only bringing down the Shekhinah, which is the female light, which is a light which is more hidden. And there's tremendous Kabbalah on this. What is Malchut? What is Malchut de Malchut? We're living in Malchut de Malchut, but what does that mean? So we'll get to it. But first we were doing the children's level in order to understand that even though the higher dimensions surround us and the light is totally not filtered at those levels, but only this little bubble of a world that we live in right now is protected. Just like the atmosphere protects us from solar radiation, we're being protected now from being overwhelmed by God's blinding light. In order for us to live in a world of distinctions where we can grow from the bottom up. So basically that's what I wanted to say, is that this is a different metaphor. This is a male and female creature, whereas the other one is a sun and a moon, and before that is upper waters and lower waters, etc. It's a different metaphor at every moment. That's one of the ways the sages were able to bring it all together with one completely coherent message behind it through the different hitlapshuyot. It's dressed in different garments, but it's one idea. That's the breakthrough, right? If I can break through and understand that what's going on in my life is always that my job is to grow from the bottom, is to enhance myself with connection to Shemayim, to recognize Shemayim in my life. Yehi chastecha Adonai Aleinu ka'asher yichanu lach. Psalm 33 or 34 or 32, I always forget. May your loving kindness be upon us, Hashem, to the degree that we hope in you, the degree that we are able to recognize you and attune ourselves to that degree, bring more hashgacha pratit, more of your divine providence into our lives. When divine providence is hidden, then life becomes chaotic and random, and we don't know what's going on. When there's a sense of hashgacha pratit, when we meet the person we're going to marry, and we see that each one of us went through a bunch of stuff, and oh my goodness, it's amazing what the dates were, and where you were, and where I was, and the people you know, and the family, and all the things. We're trying to find hashgacha pratit. We're trying to find divine providence in the fabric of our lives. There's nothing greater for revelation of divine providence than the meeting of a couple. The Baal Shem Tov, Shlomo told the story. I wish I could tell it better. Baal Shem Tov told a story to a couple at their wedding. And so Shlomo on the Lower East Side in 1976 was telling this story at a Sheva Brachot of a couple. This amazing story of these stories within stories. And finding these two young people who are so lonely, their whole growing up. She was so lonely, so apart from everything that was going on around her. And he was so apart from everything going around him. And they finally met and they got married. And the Baal Shem Tov told them all of the Gilgulim, all of the reincarnations that they were both involved with prior to their becoming into this reincarnation. And now to meet. And the Baal Shem Tov said, now at your wedding, there's awesome joy in heaven because the two of you were meant to get together for aeons. When Shlomo told the story, it really meant that to me. Oh my goodness, what a deep way of looking at life. That there's so much behind each one of us. Incredible stories within stories. And all we see down here is this little, right, through the keyhole. And what Hashem is telling us now through these Torahs and through all the Torahs is to expand our awareness, to understand, even though we don't know. We can only intuit at most. We don't know. But at least we can know that we don't know. We can know that we're beginning to start to know. We're asking for a deeper and more profound level of God's revelation into our life so we can go back into our lives. Why was I born where I was born? Why the family that I had? Why my mom and dad? Why I felt the way I felt as a kid, right? I call it doing a book report. You want to see God in your life? It's not a philosophical abstraction. It's me, it's my life, it's you, it's me, it's us. And then it's Am Yisrael as a symbolic embodiment of divine providence on the planet. And yet it's every person, every nation, everything. It's all this prophetic, cosmic story. So please forgive me for going a little bit, like mad here, crazy, but it gets that powerful. And please God, right? Let's take it with, even if you don't come anymore to this class, take it with you that the time is coming. Besides that, there's elections going on, which is like, wow. Besides that, and besides the FBI, and besides Syria, and besides Russia, and besides the fleet and the Mediterranean, and besides all of that, and that we're so protected here, and that everything is just perfectly made for us to grow into greatness right now, with joy, with thankfulness. So, Bezat Hashem, a great year. You want these to take them with you, but on the condition that you'll connect with me either coming back to the class.
You should bring them with us next week.
Please, please. Don't. There's a song at the end that we have to sing called Ma Nocha B'Seudah Zo. There's all these great things in here. This is like really exciting. All right, thank you.
I was just reading in the Yichud book about
What?
The metaphors that you gave about like the Leviathan and the castration, it reminded me of like there's a midrash on the book of Yonah like it sounds crazy, but it says that when Yonah was in the stomach of the big whale, which by the way we know it was a female because she was referred to as a daga,
Right.
The male Leviathan came to attack the female whale, and what saved the female whale was that Yonah showed the sign of his Brit Milah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
And is that connected?
Oh, it's totally connected. The rabbis are really very, very revolutionary. They talk in very deep symbols,
Yeah.
tall tales. You'll see. You'll read some of this pamphlet and you'll see. You'll begin to get an
I heard this Midrash a year ago and I was thinking, this sounds so crazy. What is this? It's
Amazing.
Fascinating. Yeah.
Great.
Wow.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry.
No, I
Yes.
just read the, I was just at the, you know,
That's
the Vichod book, you know, the Unity book.
Oh, yeah.
We were just reading Nefesh HaChaim on that whole piece about the energy, there's a piece of creation, all of man, he brought that as a source. It was a creation, man is the highest level of creation, has a piece of creation.
All those
I
sources
read
that
this
he
morning,
brings.
you know,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm up to. I always love when that happens.
Wow.
Is
Okay.
there
Yeah.
any
So
change?
please sign in.
I gotta get-
And then I will also take a photo of this week's sign-in and add any new emails. And I'll send you an email, and then you can send me back if you have any questions. If you want this class to be something
Did everybody
special,
pay?
then your participation is appreciated.
Do you need change or do you love exact change? Do you need change?
Okay.
Okay, I don't think,
We didn't sing. How can we do that? We can still sing.
So can I just pay next week? I would pay next week 50. I'll give 10 now and then I'll just pay some more.
Okay, there's a tune from
But they can
Breslov,
change. They're gonna, yeah, but they're gonna.
which is for Eshet Chayil. I'm going to sing it to Mizmor David. Crazy combination. It's something I do every Friday night. Mizmor David.
Oh, perfect.
Adonai Roi Lo Echsa Bino Deshe Yabitzeni Ale Menuchot Yanaleni. Anybody want to sing along? Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'magle tzedek b'man shemo gam ki elech Getzal Mavet Lo Iraraki Ata Imadi Shivtecha Umishantecha Hema Yenachamoni Taroch Lefanai Shulchan neged soreraidi shanta ba shemen roshi kosi revayach tov hesed yedefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti bebeit Adonai leorech yamim na 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 na. Everything he said is in the words of that song. It's amazing. Psalm 23. Okay, thank you. It does make a difference. We should always sing.
Our son, when was the Kadur art created? My son asked. The Kadur art, I don't know which day, the actual earth.
Oh, so
A 12-year-old one.
so listen, I don't have any problem with talking about millions of years,
Right.
billions of years. The solar system is planets breaking off of the sun,
Right.
in my opinion,
Right.
and going to a distance where we can be cool enough in order to receive from the sun what we need and yet be able to be separate.
So was that on day one then already? So
No, it's much later.
much later. So
Yeah.
when did it happen?
Our solar
in that-
system is relatively distant from what we might call the center of the universe.
Mhm.
But
Well, they had to be there if they put Adam on it. So by the sixth day, we had to have had Earth. No.
no, of course.
Okay.
But Earth was not as we know it now. Right?
Okay. So what would I tell him? He wanted like a day. He just wanted to know which day. I can't really say. Because Rebbe didn't have an answer either.
There's a very good explanation on the blog of Professor Schroeder where he explains
Yeah.
the fact that day one only represented the distance to travel for the lights to travel from one point to the other, and he really explains it very well and suggests you check it out.
No, it's for my 12-year-old son. I just needed. He wants a simple answer. He doesn't want to know
Sure,
where.
but you read it.
No, I know that. For
Okay,
sure.
so
Yeah, I
the
know
fourth
that. I know
day
that.
is the
I know.
suspension. Is the suspension of the luminaries in the sky.
So it would probably be right about that.
Although we have a tradition that Adam Arishon was Mekadesh Levana
Okay.
on sixth day, and that's when everything went into operation.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what we say that the plant life only was potential; it came up to but not above ground until Adam. A lot of things didn't happen until Adam. He's the observer. The observer in physics is a necessary component of physical reality.
Okay.
So
sometime
fourth
between the
day
fourth-
and sixth day is
Sometime between the fourth and sixth day, it came into being. Good enough. I will tell that. Thank you.
So, but when you said these 6 days wasn't physical creation, it only manifested into physicality
later.
Adam was
In this thing here, it's at the bottom here. Right here is the edge we drop into history. I'll explain it. So here we're still with a lot of light. The tree of life, tree of knowledge, whatever, Adam and Eve, angelic beings. So there's, and this is not a 1 day, 24-hour as we have it. This is the whole reality, but it just takes time to give it over. So.
And then natural just like the creation of that earth that didn't happen in any of the 6 days because it physical. I mean,
you see, dimensionality is very interesting. We'll talk about how if we hold up a piece of paper and we ask, what is this? We'll say it's a piece of paper. And then we'll ask, well, what is it made of? And we'll say, molecules. And what are molecules made of? We'll say atoms. What are atoms made of? Quarks. And quarks are made of strings, and strings are made up of substrings. And we get down to a level we don't have any words for anymore. With a certain energy, right? And so is it one or the other of any of these things? It's all of them all together, depending on the perspective. If we had goggles on that could get us to the molecular level, then they would be molecules. But we don't. We have it only as paper. But the Earth was at the level of molecules, so to speak. And it was still an Earth. So for the time being. Okay. All right. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you so much.